Hi everybody, it's Georgia Rose from Zencuda. It must be Tuesday night because this is our Tuesday night live. And so, sorry I'm a few minutes late, but sometimes that happens in the real world when we have interruptions and dogs and phones and all kinds of things. So how are you guys tonight? I hope you're all doing really great. Tonight's topic is sex and spirituality. So let's talk about sex, baby. So the reason why I picked tonight's subject is actually because, no surprise here, the astrology of this week is very much in line with this subject tonight. So why did I pick this subject? Well, the sun is very prominent in the sky right now. As you know, June 21st, we come on to the summer solstice, which is the brightest, longest day of the year. And so the sun is really building up power right now. And in astrology, the sun is our life force. So I thought it was a good time to talk about sex, because that's our life force also, right? And the sun is weighing so high in the sky, it's giving us a lot of energy and a lot of lifeblood and a lot of passion. And where it is in the sky right now with Venus and also Neptune in Pisces is making the energies a little bit dreamy, and it would be easy to get lost in our libidos. So I thought maybe this video would help us ground a little bit. So anybody want to chime in? Chime in. Hi Bob, how are you doing? Hope you're out there doing some music. I know Thursday Bob is at the warehouse. Little plug for him there. I'm going to try and get down there after we go to some exotic car show at Blackstone's. So let's talk about sex. So the word libido actually translates to life force. So sex isn't just, hi Kathy, how are you? Oh, you're back on Long Island. Yay, we got to get together. Kathy was a world traveler for a little bit, trying to find her journey. So you never know where life's going to be. You landed a job today. That's awesome. I can't wait to hear all about it. Kathy Popoli is a very gifted graphic artist. So if any of you need any side work done out there, Kathy is a good friend of mine and very reliable in that regard. So getting back to the subject we all love, let's talk about sex. So sex and spirituality, how do they go hand in hand? Well, we're going to get to that in a little bit. So if anybody wants to chime in about experiences or anything, you can definitely do that. So what is sex really? Sex is, in my ideal, since I've become evolved, sex for me is a sacred energy exchange. And so, Kathy, what real estate company is that? I keep getting interrupted in my thoughts. Can you tell Gemini is in the sun? Real estate control. Okay. So sex is a sacred energy exchange. So what do I mean by that? Once you become kind of evolved, and I think it has a lot to do with maturity as well, we think about sex not just with our physical body. And sex then becomes something that we're really striving to do more of. We kind of, for a lot of us who, have had different times in our life when we have been single and in marriages and all kinds of things, we've experienced monogamy and we've also experienced dating. And so we kind of have a barometer that tells us what's fulfilling and what is not fulfilling for us based on our own preferences. And I think when we get to a certain point in our life, those preferences become much more meaningful to us. And it becomes less about the physicality of sex and the urge and the physical body and more about really wanting some kind of satisfaction. So we get to a point in our life, in our spiritual evolution, where we really want substance over, just satisfaction. And I kind of think of it, and Bob will relate to this because I know he's in the car business. I think of it, some cars are like all show and no go. And so, they're great to drive around in, but they kind of lose their appeal pretty quickly because there's nothing under the hood. Well, I kind of equate sex with that. Sometimes we can have sex with someone who we're really attracted to. We're basing on sex appeal, right? But after we really look at it, we're really not getting satisfied in a really deep way. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So first I want to talk a little bit about how we're all brought up. We really start to form our sex ideas and our opinions about sex and even our ideals and our appeals based on really adolescence, right? So a lot of our sex habits and our sex drives and the way we look at sex and approach sex in our life is about who taught us really in puberty what sex was about, how to value sex, what our role models were in that regard. And I think that's one of the reasons why there was a very large portion of society for many years where sex was very casual. I know for a lot of us who grew up in the 80s, 90s, and even late 70s, and especially the 60s, sex was super casual. It wasn't really, didn't have to be that meaningful. A love-in, meant almost like a key party, where I heard stories before my time, but people would basically all get together and throw their house key in a bowl, and then you picked a key, and those two people kind of went home together. So I think there was one time when society really reached a pinnacle of complete physical satisfaction and nothing more in looking at sex. And I think if you look at sex more with today's media, you're going to see that we still really put a lot of energy onto sex appeal. What is appealing? What is beautiful? And it's still a very youthful, very healthy kind of image, right? Growing old is no longer really appealing. I myself, now that I get older, have noticed, when I go out to functions, I get looked at, but not half as much as I used to when I was youthful. Now if there's a 22-year-old coming in the room behind me, well, I don't get the look. And so I think, especially for women, that is something that we go through. And even though it's, you have self-esteem and you want to know that you're beautiful and honor your soul and honor your body as well, I think society and media really plays a huge role in what we find beautiful and how we approach sex in our lives. And I think a lot of those images and a lot of those expectations and ideals lead us into areas where we're not satisfied and we're looking for an ideal, and we get into a lot of judgment. So I think that's where our ideas and our sensations and our sentiments about sex are formed. And so that being said, spirituality kicks in and makes it more important in a different way. And so what happens is, what I've come to believe through, my own evolution and my meditations is that sex really is a sacred energy exchange. It connects us to each other, but it also connects us to the universe and creation. And so part of mastery when you're in any kind of spiritual development or on a spiritual path is harnessing that energy and being able to harness energy and knowing that your libido, which again translates into life force, literally means that, knowing that your libido really can have energy that doesn't always have to be used for sex or a physical exchange. It can be used for creativity in many other ways. And I think that's really was the idea behind, things like priests and monks being celibate. It was so that they mastered sexual energy to be channeled in a different way, where that was for religious zealousness or for connecting it with humans in a different way. Or, we all know, unfortunately, the negativity that's associated with certain organized religions now and sexuality. And so I think that was people who failed to master and channel their libido, failed to master and channel the sexual energy that we are all born with, that is creation within us. So I think one of the things that you're going to find that is really important with sexual mastery is mastering your libido, is mastering your sexual energy to be used for things that you really desire it to be used for, and when and where you want it to be used for, thus the sacred energy exchange. So if you think about it, sex is really the most intimate and also the most powerful act two humans can enter into, because it's really an exchange of your life force. And so when you start going into certain modalities like Qigong and martial arts and even yoga, you realize that the libido and the life force that originates with sexual energy, the creation of sexual energy, is the most powerful energy that you have in your body. Kundalini, if you've ever felt Kundalini rising, it's very powerful. So if you can actually master and harness that energy, not just for the physical act of sex, but to also be in other areas of your life, it really gives you a lot of passion and a lot of power, and harnessing that life force to be really placed where you want it to be for your own higher good and the good of others. So what do I mean by that? Well, erotica. What is erotic? We all have different ideas of what we think is erotic, right? But what if someone who is highly sexually charged, instead of going out and having intercourse or an interaction with that charged energy, uses it to create art or uses it to create media of some kind, to not just be highly erotic, but beautiful, worshiping maybe the divine feminine or the masculine, or just the human form, or using and channeling that energy to be something that is other than just a sexual exchange that's purely physical and only going to have a finite amount of time. What if you mastered that erotic libido, that sexual energy, that energy of creation, to now go into a creation, a form that is limitless, and now not only becomes creation and creativity, music, writing a piece of music or playing a piece of music, but now that also becomes an act of love. Love stemming from the most powerful energy that we as humans know. So that's what sex is. It isn't just intercourse. It isn't just a physical exchange. It's a sacred energy that we've been given inside us that is a direct connection to the divine and creation. And so when you think about it like that, you start to really use that energy in a different way than just physical gratification. And if you think about it, whether it's, sexual mastery and mastering that energy, not to be exploited, not to exploit your desires, to now obtain someone else or to manipulate someone else, but now it becomes an energy that you really can channel for constructive use, not just the exchange of being deeply involved with someone else, but being deeply involved in creation itself. What we really crave when our libido is heightened, what we're really craving is deep connection. We may think we're craving physical satisfaction, but we're really craving deep connection. And that's very evident. Anyone who has studied the Kama Sutra or Tantra, both modalities train you, require you to zone in on that sexual energy and bring it other places in your body. For instance, when we're aroused sexually and we are in a place of erotica, we're in a place of arousal, all our energy goes to that area of our body, right? You'll oftentimes hear, especially men say, they're being ruled by that organ, or, the blood's all there. But we can train it to do something different. And what that means is restraint and correction of a pattern. So if you've ever practiced Tantra, or if you've ever studied the Kama Sutra, what it trains you to do is when you are engaging in either erotic energy with a partner, or mostly with a partner, or even, by yourself, what you do is you train your energy not just to be so focused on that area of your body. Because what happens, the masculine, when you're in arousal, the energy is all located in the lower dimension of the body, the lower energy, lower chakras. That's where male sexual energy originates, in those lower chakras. Female sexual energy originates more in the central chakras. Feminine sexual energy is very heart-based. Male sexual energy is very root-based. So if you take those two partners and now you start to make that energy go to the other areas of the body and let it rise from the masculine root chakras, the lower chakras, rising that energy to the heart chakra, then the male suddenly begins to experience deep love in that connection. The camera almost fell. My camera's having an erection. I'm sorry, very irreverent. But anyway, so let's talk about sex, baby. So if you, while you're in those places of connection or arousal, if you can actually stimulate the energy to move upward from the root chakra for the masculine into the heart chakra, the male will experience much deeper connection and much deeper gratification. The feminine, the same thing. If you can take that energy out of the heart chakra and make it rise to the head, now it becomes more sacred. So what happens is something that starts out in the lower chakras and in the middle chakras for the male and female, which is just, basic, spontaneous, good sex, now rises to become blissful cosmic energy. And that is the main purpose of that sacred energy exchange. So if you study those modalities and you really start to harness that spirituality regarding the sexual energy, it really brings it to a different level and what it's meant to be, which is pure bliss, cosmic connection, a soul melding of two people. And that's what sacred energy exchange sex is all about. So I don't know if you guys have anything to weigh in on, anything that you want to talk about tonight. I'd love to hear about your experiences, or as you master these kind of things, or as you're working on these kind of things. I think that it's really important for us to break certain patterns, and I think those patterns really have been instituted by what the media tells us to do and what the media says is correct and not correct. And I wanted to just go into a few minutes of that with abstinence, because I know a lot of people during certain parts of their spiritual journey will practice abstinence, and that's very admirable. I think that it's sometimes for some very hard to do, for others not. I will say that what I believe abstinence to be is help you to completely focus on other areas. And abstinence also helps very much in the idea of what I was just saying with really trying to, I'm just going to fix this camera tripod that broke before. When you go into abstinence, it really helps a lot with here I am to save the day. Okay, so when you go into abstinence, especially for people who are on a spiritual path, what it does, it helps you focus the energy. And so when you're in abstinence, you're not so distracted. And so that really helps with being mainly focused on the spirituality of how you want to really demonstrate sex in your life and what you really want sex to be for you in a meaningful way. And so in that regard, I don't know what is wrong with this tripod tonight. I apologize. This has never happened before. It's actually a really expensive tripod. So what happens in that regard is you're more focused on where you want the energy to be by taking the distraction of the physicality out. And that's the purpose of abstinence, is to rechannel the energy to make it more healthy in different ways for you in your life. So does anybody have any questions or comments out there? Hi, Paul John. Hi, Denise. Hi, Debbie Ann. And so that's about all I really had to say about it. Oh, there was another level I wanted to talk about. I actually had notes. The other thing I wanted to talk about was regarding sex is that, like I just said before, the main purpose of sex is really that deep connection of creativity and love and passion between two people. But there's a difference between the having sex part and the making love part. And what I kind of like to think of it is that when you're evolved spiritually and you've mastered that libido and that sexual energy to be something deeper, what happens then is what sex appeal is, and the idea of what sexually appealing is sometimes changes. Because now a lot of us go into life and we have a type, right? But when you you see just a soul instead of a type, instead of just a physical, then it becomes a different type of exchange. And so because of that, you will take things more seriously, and you'll really not want to do so many casual things, because now the energy of that exchange becomes much deeper. So I think I got the tripod going anyway. So thank you so much for watching tonight. If anybody wants to weigh in on anything or talk about some experiences or just have any questions in general about how to incorporate spirituality into sex and sex with spirituality and vice versa, I'm willing to try to answer them online. And like I said, the astrology right now is very heightened for sexual energy as the sun grows very, very bold in the sky and we approach the summer solstice. There will be a buildup of that beautiful libido energy, especially with Neptune and Pisces, which can make us sometimes dreamy. So make sure that your feelings really are your feelings. And also, as you practice sexuality in your life and harness your sexuality and really use your spirituality to understand sexuality more on a deeper level, remember that sex is the strongest energy we have. It's the cornerstone of our life. Again, the word libido translates into life force. So be very careful who you exchange your energy with. That sacred energy exchange is meant to elevate you and raise you higher, not give you feelings of fear, doubt, unworthiness. So choose your partners very carefully. If you're in a monogamous relationship, make sure that you treat each other with loving kindness in a very giving and pleasurable way, because sex really is the most powerful way that we have of elevating our vibration, and we want to do that in a loving way. So thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you all great love and ecstasy in your developments in this area. And once again, I'm Georgia Rose from Zenkuda, and you can find me on Zenkuda Official on Instagram, Zenkuda on YouTube, and of course right here on Facebook on Zenkuda by Georgia Rose. Thank you so much. If you'd like a private reading or healing with me, you can always reach me on any of those medias, and also reach me on email as well. So reach out anytime. I'm here to help, and I hope that you're loving our Zenkuda Soul community, and we all can come together in spirit and soul and harmony and raise each other and raise the vibration of the world. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you all next Tuesday night on our next Zenkuda Live.